Whether you love them or you hate them, resumes are a necessary part of finding a job. And when you've taken a career break, it can feel daunting on how to craft a resume that shows off your unique skills, experience, and abilities. But don't worry, because today you're going to learn how to structure a resume, no matter how long your career break has been, that shows why you are the best fit for the position that you are applying to. And make sure to grab the free companion workbook in the description below, which has even more resume tips. Hi, I'm Laura, and I'm here to take your job search from stressful to successful. So let's get started. Welcome to Module 5, which is all about resume writing. I know it's probably not on your top 10 or even top 100 list of fun things to do. But if you're looking for a job, then you're going to need a resume. So let's start off with what a resume is and what it is not. It is not an information dump of all of your prior work history. It is not an autobiography of your career. Rather, it is a curated highlight reel of your accomplishments as it pertains to a specific position, the position that you are applying to. And I want to get this out there before we fully dive in. And that is, I'm providing you insights from my experience as a recruiter, my experience working with other job seekers, and from my own personal experience. This is what I have found has worked the best, and they are best practices across the board, no matter what industry you are in. But ultimately, your resume is what you believe to be the best reflection of yourself to land a specific position. And you need to be comfortable with your resume. So let's get started with resume best practices. Number one is to focus on function over fancy. Now, I've seen some crazy resume templates out there. Pictures here, bar graphs here, charts there. But remember, a recruiter only spends about 6 to 10 seconds on a resume before deciding whether or not to move them forward or to move them over into the no pile. And you do not want to confuse them. So keep it simple. And next is to use quantifiable data that show your specific impact. The biggest mistake I see is when people simply state what they did. Now that reads like a job description. When you look at a job description, you're saying, okay, what am I going to be doing? And that is not what you want your resume to show. You want your resume to show how you did that something and the impact that that something had. Now let's take it really base level as an example. Let's say that you are applying for a receptionist position, and we all know receptionists generally have to answer the phone. So you know that they're looking for somebody who has experience answering a phone. Most people just put answered the phone. That's just saying the what. You want to dig deeper, saying something like handled 80 plus calls daily, reducing average wait time from 4 to 2 minutes by creating a concise FAQ script. That's showing your specific impact. And when you do that, you are going to stand out amongst the majority of job seekers. And I want you to keep this one thing in mind as you write your resume. How do you show up as the best solution to the problem that the company has? Because remember, every single job posting is in search of a need. There is a problem they're looking to solve. There are goals they are wanting to hit. And you need to show up as the absolute best person to fill that need. And next is to use that top portion of the resume strategically. Now, you don't have long to capture the attention of the recruiter or the hiring manager. And think about it. They're not reading from the bottom up. They're reading from the top down. So you need to use that top third, that top half very strategically. And this is a perfect place for a career profile, a career summary, career highlights, things that show at a high level the impacts that you have had. And when you do this, that's what's going to have them wanting to continue to read more. Remember to look at your work experience and see how it best shows you off. And this is going to mean looking at that older work experience as well. There are some people that say if it's older than X amount, then it needs to be gone. Rather than look at it through that lens, I want you to look at the relevance of that experience. If you have experience and it's 19 years old, but it's very relevant to the position that you're applying for, then heck yes, that should be on there. But if it's the opposite and you're like, yeah, I worked at Subway 19 years ago and now I'm an IT professional, you can go ahead and get rid of it. And I can hear you now, but what about age discrimination? If it is older work experience, you can create a section titled relevant work experience or additional work experience, where you can highlight those specific accomplishments, but you're not giving away when you worked at a place. And finally, remove dates from your education. By now, I'm assuming that you are at least at a mid-career level, meaning your education was probably years, if not decades ago. So make sure to remove the dates and then move down your education from the top to the bottom. Now, the exception to this is if you are a recent grad or you've just recently received some type of certification or training. In that case, you can highlight that in the career profile section and make a call out to its relevance now. Now that we've covered resume best practices, let's turn our attention towards resume layouts. By far and away, the most common is the chronological layout. And this is simply when you start with your most recent work experience and then work backwards. Another one you might have heard of is the functional resume. And this is where you start off with your skills and abilities. And this is going to take up the large chunk of that page. And then towards the bottom, you will have your work experience, but it's not in detail. It's very, very brief. And the next is a hybrid, which is a combination of chronological and functional. Here's what I have to say about these layouts. First and foremost, just go ahead and throw out that functional resume. It is confusing. You are asking the recruiter or the hiring manager to figure it out. And remember, they're only spending a few seconds on each resume. And if you're asking them to do more work and piece together your puzzle, then they're just gonna move on. I would say the majority of the time you're going to use a chronological resume, even if you've had a longer career break. But there are times you might want to look at a hybrid, and that is when you're reaching 15, 18, 20 years out of the workforce. Now, each of these is dependent, once again, on how you feel comfortable laying out your experience. But if you're in doubt, go with the chronological layout. Future Laura popping in. I know this is a lot of information. And if you're thinking to yourself, man, I really wish I could work with her one-on-one so she can guide me through my specific situation, well, you're in luck because I do work one-on-one with clients. Just check out the link in the description below. All right, back to old Laura. Now let's move on to how to handle your career break on your resume. And you're not gonna like what I have to say, because it depends. There is no one perfect answer. If you've had a 2-year career break, that's going to look different than if you've had a 12-year career break. If you've been going to school, if you've been volunteering, that's going to look different than somebody who hasn't been doing those things. So it does depend on your specific situation. But I'm going to show some examples so you can get a better feel. I will say this, regardless of the amount of time away or how you posit it on your resume, your title, the way that you talk about it should be simple and professional. I say this because I've seen people write things such as domestic goddess or stay-at-home CEO. You are applying for professional positions and you need to come across as professional. And I also want you to keep in mind that experience is experience is experience. I don't care whether or not you received a paycheck for it. If you have the experience that relates to the position that you are applying to, then draw attention to that. When I hear people say, always put your volunteer experience at the bottom, I'm just like, wait, why would I do that if what I was doing in a volunteer capacity can help the company that I'm applying to? That should be something that is led with. For example, if you were on the board of a nonprofit and you headed up all of their fundraising, now you year after year not only met but exceeded fundraising goals. You increased attendance at every event and you're applying for a fundraising position or an event planner position. Why in the heck would you not want to lead with that? With that being said, let's take a look at some examples. Now, the first ones are if you have a very short career break, you can simply just state that you were on a career break, the dates, and then follow it along with your paid work experience. Titles such as career break to care for family, or world traveler are just appropriate and they're short to the point, and the person reading it will understand. And because it is such a short amount of time, you don't have to list bullet points. But if you have been doing something that you feel as though is relevant to the position you're applying to, of course, add that. Now, here's an example of a longer career break. This is from 2019 to present, and as it's 2025 right now, then that's a 6-year career break. But in this example, you can see that there has been volunteering done. There has been participation in a professional organization. And let's say you were applying for a career counselor position at a college. Both of these bullet points directly relate to the position that you're applying to. And both of these I have done. The first one is coaching women through Dress for Success, helping them to prepare for interviewing and for resume writing. These are things that as a career counselor you would be doing. And then the second bullet point relates to being a member of Toastmasters, where you deliver speeches and get comfortable with public speaking. And as a career counselor, there's a good chance that you might be giving presentations, presenting workshops. So tying these in is beneficial to helping you get one step closer to your goal. Now, let's say that you've also volunteered during your time, but you have been really active in that specific capacity and you have true impact that you can show, and it relates to the position that you're applying to, then list it as you would just any other work experience, but of course put that it's in a volunteer capacity, because who wouldn't want somebody who has this fundraising background if they were looking to move into a fundraising capacity? If you follow the guidelines of keeping it professional, making sure that if you list bullet points that they tie back to the position that you're applying to, and if you are able to show impact, you are going to be fine. And I do want to just toss in this really quickly. You don't have to put a ton of bullet points. Even if there's just a couple, that is completely sufficient. Now let's wrap up with some final resume tips. And the first one is to keep a master resume. Now this is for your eyes only. Consider it an information dump of everything that you have ever done in your career. And that could be work experience, trainings, certifications, anything that you have been doing that is valuable, you are going to want to have on this master resume. And the point of it is to have a one-stop shop for when you do craft a resume that you can just easily pull. Because sometimes we think we're going to remember things, but we don't. And then we're scrambling trying to remember exactly what it is that we did. In ways to go about getting information for your master resume is, of course, thinking about everything you've been doing. But if you have any old performance evaluations you can pull from your goals and metrics, or if you have any emails from past coworkers or past managers that talk about any of the projects you were on, that's also a great way to get this information. And then going forward, make sure to update this regularly. And next is that you should never be completely overhauling your resume. That's a misnomer. If you have gained your career clarity, like we talked about earlier, then you are honing in on specific positions. Now, there might be slight variances, but you shouldn't be completely all over the map. So if you are targeted, then you are going to have a main base resume. And from there, all you're going to be doing is adjusting here and there when necessary. And next is to remember that you don't want to be too long with this. And this shouldn't happen, because if you're being intentional with your resume, if you're making sure to only put relevant experience as it pertains to that position, if you're making sure to keep your bullet points between 3 to 5 bullet points per position, then you shouldn't be exceeding 2 pages. So really 2 pages should be that max. Of course, if you're in a different field, such as medical field, lawyer, researcher, academics, then you'll be using a CV, and that's a longer document. And finally, remember this: there is no perfect resume. So take that weight off of yourself. Some people might call a career profile a career summary. If the meat of what you're saying is showing why you are the best fit for a position, those little things just don't matter. Finally, I want to leave you with this action item, and that's to start creating your own master resume. If you don't have one, then you're going to be starting from scratch, but it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be for you. And so if you can read it, then that's the most important. And if you already have one, then just think about all those things that you have been doing during your career break that you can add to it. Okay, I'll see you over in Module 6.